I'm overdressed. It's warm in here. Yeah. We've been sitting inside, so I haven't been out. Check it. Hold on once. I can't see.
Thanks to everybody for being here. Thank you, Joe.
You got it, sir.
We got Axel and Austin with the microphones. Who's got the first question for Joe?
What you got?
Right here in the middle, Austin.
Joe, I mean, you waited a long time to figure out who you're going to play. Now that you know, what's your reaction to facing the Giants?
They're good. I was looking at the record. I didn't even realize was brought up in our meetings that the last time we played them, those were all one-run games. That's kind of interesting. And then I also looked. It seemed like we had just played them in San Francisco, but that was in May. And I just could remember going across the street to Morton's for a steak dinner that night, and that was already May. That's happened so quickly. They're good. They know how to do this. I have a ton of respect for Boach. I've known Boach for a long time. You could see that how well they reacted to last night. There's Baumgartner. Not only him, though, the entire group. They just know how to do this. They're formidable, and it should be interesting.
To your left, Joe.
So
yes, sir.
When you're going up against a manager like Coach C, what's that chess match like, and how? Just can you describe how on your toes you have to be?
Well, I honestly don't think it's like situations like this. A lot of times it's the reverse kind of guys that can be beneficial. In other words, the righty that's better against the lefty, or the lefty that's better against the righty. You have to be cognizant of those moments. But just know that he's a cowboy, and he'll do anything. And whenever you're managing against a cowboy, it's always interesting.
Other questions? Bruce, we'll get to the microphone right behind the pillar right there in the purple.
I have an obstructed view, Joe, sorry. Hot team or best team, does it really apply when you get to this point? Obviously, you guys have been the best team all year. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, it really is, I think, about who plays the game better at this particular moment. By being the best team during the course of the season permitted us to win a division and skip that crazy game last night. That's what it permits you to do. In a way, obviously, it permits you to rest, whereas when you're in that scramble to get there, you have to really push some guys. So you don't know how that's going to play out when it comes over the next week or hopefully the next couple weeks, where teams that had been extended, players that had been extended primarily. I always think about relief pitchers in those moments. Those guys, it's tough for them sometimes to be really pushed this hard to this point of the season. Players, again, if you're able to give guys rest, it should be beneficial. If not, if you have to push them, then again, it can show up right now. However, the difference is, like, for instance, we play 2 games day off, 2 games possibly day off. So the days off right now do help guys gather a little bit. So it's just who's playing the game better right now. Like I said, the body of work during the season normally indicates that you had a pretty complete team. You played well. You get to this point where you don't have to worry about the 1-game wild card game. But otherwise, man, it's pretty even at this point. I've been on a wild card team that's won a World Series. Was on a wild card team last year that got really close. So it's really about right now.
All the way in
Joe.
the back.
Yes, sir.
Kind of to follow up what you just said, history hasn't been really kind to teams with the best record or 100-win teams now since the advent of the wild card, and yet wild card teams have done so well. Can you figure out why?
Well, everybody's pretty good right now. You know, it doesn't matter if you won a division or not. If you're a wild card team, everybody's pretty good. I don't know. I mean, sometimes maybe, and this is just conjecture. I don't know anything. It's just that the fact that you've worked so hard to get to that point, you kind of exhale, meaning like a wild card team, and all of a sudden you just let it fly. You almost feel like you're playing with house money a little bit, so you just let her go. I know I'm talking about, the Angels back in the day. That was a real a group that just went out there and played it hard. I think the Giants are kind of like that. We were like that last year. So I don't know. I mean, it's just, you know what you read, you know the different conjecture again about getting to this particular moment. But it's about Friday night and how we react, how we, John pitches tomorrow night, we catch the ball. If we work good at bats, I mean, it's who plays the better game of baseball tomorrow night. I've always believed that. So regardless of, the success of wild card groups or not, the non-success of groups that have had the best record or not, it doesn't really matter. It's about tomorrow night and how we react to it. And that's why right now we're sitting down going over the scouting information and really concerned about the Giants, but I'm more concerned about us. It's about how we play, how we react to the moment, how we, execute our pitches or play defense, or how we react in the batter's box. So I think so much is made of who you're playing on the other side, and that's wonderful, but it's more about how you react to the moment. And so for the last couple of days, I've been more concerned about talking to our guys about us and as little about the other side as possible.
Hank, to your right, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Joe, for those of us who just rolled in on the bandwagon here, could you tell us why you chose the pitching order the way you did with Lester, Hendrick, Arrieta, as opposed to the other way around?
Well, obviously John's been doing really well, and not that Jake hasn't, but John's been on a really significant role. It's almost, there's a component of meritocracy involved, I think, the fact that he has earned the right to be this guy, plus looking at their team, the Giants right now, they're very heavily left-handed. Now, they could choose to do different things tomorrow. That's up to them. But we would have done it regardless. And also the Mets are really good left-handed, too. So it came down to the point that John, I'm not going to try to give you any kind of coy remarks. John deserved to. And then on top of that, the matchup's really good. Beyond that, Kyle is knocked it dead at home here also. Both these guys have pitched really well, and I've said it before. Among all the guys, Jake and John Lackey on the road have been, Lackey's numbers aren't overwhelming on the road, but John Lackey's been in those particular moments before, and I know it doesn't bother him where he's pitching, how big the ballpark is, how small the wind blowing in or out. John's going to be John. So we just thought that based on those simple factors, it was wise to go this direction. Actually, as it turned out, like I said, Lester versus the Giants or the Mets would have been a nice first game matchup.
To your left, Joe. Phil.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, just how remarkable is this run the Giants have been on in the postseason? I think the record's 35-14, won 11 straight rounds.
Yeah.
And do you see them as playing on house money in this series?
Yeah, I think they've done it as a wild card before, haven't they? Won the World Series twice. So there you go. They like I said, you look at their team and look at, watch how they play, and I don't see one scared bone in anybody's body. They're just out there playing the game of baseball, playing it hard, trying to play it right. They are among all the groups left. They're as old school as it gets regarding how they structure things, put things together. I don't know that sabermetrically they're even concerned about that. They just try to put the best baseball players out there possible. I've worked against the Giants for years in the minor leagues, instructional leagues. I know a lot of the people involved. I know how they put it together, so I get it. And I think this time of the year, numbers are kind of cool, but it really comes down to individuals and players and heartbeats and things like that. And I think they got all of that. So that's why they've been so successful. And purely and simply, that's it. I have a lot of respect for them, like I said, and their coaching staff. Wotus. Ronnie and I go way back also. I know all these guys, and they're good. They're really good at what they do, and they have a nice, simple, basic approach. And they're, like I said, at the end of the day, man, they're not afraid. To me, that's the number one requirement.
Jesse, right in the front.
Yes, sir.
Before the All-Star break, when the fatigue showed up, you explained how it showed up. Now you're in the opposite situation.
Right.
You had a lot of rest. How does that show up? Is it laser focus, 120 pitch counts? You're able.
Yeah,
to
we're gonna find out. I thought we've handled the last couple of days well. This rain kind of put a little, no pun intended, damper on the situation tonight. Maybe it was intended. I just thought of it. So I think that our guys have done a really good job. We took Monday off, Tuesday. Nice. The sim game was crispy. Everything was cool. And then yesterday, again, they came out. We did some really nice work defensively. There's great attention to detail. What else could I possibly ask for? There's no other way to prepare. You can't just bring the Washington Generals in and all of a sudden have a game for a couple of days. You'd love to be able to do that, but that's not available to you. You could if there's an instructional league right down the street, which is something we did in Tampa, but all that stuff is not available, so you do the best you can. And I'm really pleased with where our guys have gone about their business. They've been wonderful. And tomorrow I want to be absolutely just like any other day of the year. We'll do our regular meetings at the regular times. Batting practice will be optional. If they don't want to hit on the field, they don't have to. I'd say when you go into this particular moment, I've always preached sameness, and I think you're going to see that. Obviously there's probably a little bit less patience when it comes to maybe doing something with the pitching during the course of the game, whether you have to pinch it a little bit earlier. the usage of the bullpen in the latter part of the game can vary. Those are the variables, I think, at this time of the year compared to regular season. Otherwise, you know, you can see a lot of the same lineups. The way we set things up prior to this should be very similar.
Try to do 4 more before John comes in. John?
What do you say about their rotation? Obviously, yours is very deep, but you know, Bumgarner was used yesterday, and now they still have Cueto able to go, and they actually brought in 3 guys who weren't even around last year with Moore and Samardzija. What do you say about their rotation?
It's good. I mean, look at Cueto's numbers this year. It's outstanding what he's done, and we've seen him in the past. I know a lot of our guys have in this division more than I have had in the past, but he's really good, and he's got such a variety of things that he does. It's kind of probably the latter-day Louis Tiant. I mean, what he's able to do, body control and different kinds of pitches and command them all. So he's got that going on. Samardzija I have not seen as much, but I know he's been pitching well as of late. Matty Moe, I've actually worked with Matt, and I know all about him and what he's capable of doing. And then, of course, Bumgarner is going to be moved back to the 3rd game, which that's the point of the wild card game. You hope to gain an edge by the fact that the teams have to use their best pitcher possibly in that game, whereas then they could throw Cueto out the next day, and anybody would like to say that Cueto was their number 2 starter. That's not bad. So they're good. Their bullpen is right and left-handed, and they can, like, again, Boch is going to match it up, and they're able to do those kind of things. They're thick, man. They're very thick. The part about it that's going to be interesting to find out exactly how they're going to construct their lineup, if they're going to have their lefties play against our lefties, that kind of thing. We'll have to wait and find out.
Front row.
Yes, sir. Joe, when you acquired Aroldis before the deadline, the time we've talked about how it was kind of set up almost like a 3-closer bullpen, and then you had Hector get hurt, Pedro get hurt, and by the time everybody got back and throwing, you'd already clinched. So,
right.
and in some respect, you haven't really seen much of that bullpen in high leverage games and high leverage part of the season. So how do you feel about that group?
Great point. I mean, you're right. I don't know. We choreographed the bullpen the last week or 10 days because you just don't know if those situations were going to arise to give these guys regular work, meaning Strop and Rondon. So we had to just put them out there. So obviously they weren't put out there in normal situations for them, and everybody knows the high leverage bullpen dudes, they like that moment. They want that adrenaline flow. So maybe we didn't see them as well as we could possibly see them in those moments. However, I mean, they're still going to be put in those moments now. We're going to find out. My point that I was making a moment ago with Jesse is you may have to be less patient with that moment. In other words, you might have to have somebody backing them up even from the first pitch they throw in a particular inning because you just don't know. They haven't had that normal level of work. When it first happened, my goodness, it was like, this is like bullpen utopia. Let's check this out. Let's run them out there. It's one of those situations you don't care if there's right or left-handed hitters coming up. You feel they're very neutral. They get both sides out well, and that was kind of a comforting thought from the bullpen perspective, but we didn't get a chance to really run through that. So you're right. That's an unknown right now. I have a lot of confidence or faith in these guys, but we got to get them out there and have them do that, and that's going to be interesting.
Jennifer?
Joe, the way that you've utilized 3 catchers on your roster for much of the season, what do you think the payoff of that has been to your club, and how can having 3 catchers on your roster be a benefit in the postseason?
Well, I think the primary benefit is that none of the catchers are tired. The fact that they've all been able to work. I also believe, if you want to talk about Wilson Contreras specifically, he's definitely not fatigued. This is a young man that has not played this deeply into the year with these kind of ramifications. So both physically and mentally, I think he's in pretty good shape. The matchup component where, they've had kind of personalized catchers. Of course, David and John have been outstanding together, and that just speaks to John Lester being the Cy Award conversation, and a lot of it has to do with the marriage between those 2 guys. With the work that Jake and Miggy have done has been outstanding, and then more recently, Kyle and Contreras. So I think there's a lot of matchup components to that. There's a lot of comfort, regarding pitcher-catcher relationships. It's unusual. I mean, I've been on teams where you don't like any of your catchers, and now you like 3. So it's kind of neat that you have all of this going on, and the matchup is there, and there's the comfort component of it, and there's real familiarity between the 2 that speaks to like almost this ESPN that between the 2 of them, that they're able to really think what the other guy's thinking, and so it's kind of it's unusual. It's absolutely unusual, but you're going to see a lot of it continue.
Well, your Game 1 pitcher's here, so we won't keep him waiting.
I don't want
Thank
to
you
keep
very
Johnny
much.
waiting. Thank you. All right.
All right. Thanks, John, for being here. First question for John. Who's got the first question for us? Right here, Axel.
John, you guys talk a lot about, people talk a lot about how you guys have the nucleus to contend for a while with the young players and the mix of the veterans. Do you guys, do the Giants have what this organization wants in the sense that they've won a couple World Series now and stuff? Do they have like what you guys think you might be able to do down the line?
I mean, I think the Giants have what every team wants to do, you know. They built from within. You know, you obviously starting pitching gets you a long ways, and they've been consistent. You know, every year they're in it. Every year they're contending. Every year they have a chance to win a World Series. So I think that's what every team wants, not just us. I think they're an organization that a lot of teams look after to figure out how, why, how to get to that point. So, yeah, I mean, it's a model of consistency. It's impressive to see what they do.
To your left, John.
John, how big an impact can the chess match between the managers have in a series like this?
I mean, I think huge. You know, anytime you got two baseball guys like we have across from each other, it can impact the game from pitch one. You know, Boch has done it for a long time, and like I just got done saying, he's been very consistent at what he's done, and obviously guys love playing for him, and that shows on the field and their record and the World Series championships and all that. So, you know, but you can't. I would imagine if Joe was asked this question, I mean, you can't worry about what the guy across the way is going to do. You know, you have to try to manage your team and your personnel. You can't try to manage their personnel. So, I would imagine that's something for Joe, and it'll be impressive to watch how these next, you know, however many games are managed, and hopefully, you know, hopefully it goes our way in the end.
A question for John? Jesse, to your right, John.
John, you guys have basically been on like 100 pitch counts for a while now. Can that show up in a good way starting tomorrow? You feel better than a year ago at this time?
I don't know. I mean, I think Joe's done a good job with us. I know there's been times this year where we haven't been happy about coming out of games, but you know, that's not our decision. You know, he wanted us to be in a good position health-wise and you know, mental-wise coming into this postseason. I feel like we've done a good job of that. But you know, as far as comparing year to years, I don't know. I think every year is just so unique. You know, you don't really. I try not to really remember how I felt last year. Just trying to, you know, enjoy this moment and get my body ready and get my mind ready for tomorrow and worry about tomorrow.
We got a question in the way back. We'll get you the microphone.
John, I think you've been here before, but what is it like to be the so-called favorite, the favorite to win the World Series?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. It's just another title. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to do anything. You know, I've been on teams where first day of spring training, they, you know, basically might as well have just given you the trophy and not even worried about playing the season, and we didn't even make the playoffs. So, I mean, it's an expectation. It's something that's put upon you, and you try to make the best of it, you know, the best way you can. I mean, there's nothing really you can do with it. We still have to go out and execute and play good baseball, and we got a good team across the way that has done that for a long time. So we definitely know there's a challenge, and I think the biggest thing is just not really paying attention to it, just worrying about us, worrying about the moment now, and who cares about if we're the favorite or not. You know, now we're back to 0-0. It doesn't matter anymore. Now we have to worry about
Wars before have done this dance.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously adds a comfort level. been down this road together a couple times, so we know that one another aren't really going to get overly excited or not be prepared. So I think that's the biggest thing is I know what Rossi's bringing in tomorrow. He knows what I'm going to bring, and I think we have a way of communicating to where we can talk each other off a ledge if we need to, or pump each other up if we need to. So it's a good working relationship, and like I've said before, he knows how to push my buttons, and I know how to push his, and we try to get the best out of each other. So we'll try to ride that wave again tomorrow.
Standing on the left, John.
Hey, John, David Russ has told us in the clubhouse that it doesn't make a difference if it's spring training or a game tomorrow night. You approach every game the same way. But knowing what's at stake, does it have any different feeling when you take the mound tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'd be lying to you if it didn't, we all know what time of year this is and what we're playing for. So the preparation and the mindset remain the same. But, when you're out there, you know what you're playing for. This could be my last start tomorrow of the year, So I think we all know that. And I think the biggest thing is being able to harness that, not run from that. I think where a lot of people get themselves in trouble, and I don't like to use the word scared, but I mean that's kind of, you pitch timid, as opposed to just going out and attacking hitters and being, the fastball down and away in May works just the same as it does in October. But if you throw that fastball down and away timid, it's not going to work too well. So you have to take the same mindset, the same preparation. That's why I've said before, I run to my routine. I run to that. That's kind of my fallback. I know that's kind of the consistent thing in my life, as far as the baseball life. So I know what to do, and I know if I'm prepared and I'm ready to go come 8 o'clock tomorrow, let's get it on and see what happens.
Bruce has a question. We'll get you the mic.
John, do you guys attack differently in the postseason? In other words, do you go by what you and David do well more in the postseason than you would do in the regular season, or are there guys that you would pitch differently to or pitch around in postseason?
I think it all depends on the team, the player, where we're at, all that stuff. I mean, I think you come out, early and you try to establish what you're going to do. I think I just got on saying you can't run from what's gotten you to this point. I mean, we all have scouting reports, we all have information, but at the same time, you pitch a certain way, and that's what makes you successful. So I think you start there, and then you make adjustments, and then within that series, you need to make adjustments based off of players, how they're swinging the bat, lineups, so forth and so on. So I think when you get in the game and you get your feet under you and you can get going, you start figuring out, okay, who's swinging the bat well, who's seeing the ball well off me right now, what the situation in the game dictates as far as pitching to guys, and that's when you make your adjustments, and you just have to get into the game and figure that out. But we'll have a game plan going in, and we played these guys not too long ago, so we'll go back and look at that. And like I said, I have strengths that have gotten me to this point in my career that I rely upon, and we'll probably start there and make adjustments.
One last one for John. Nothing else? We'll take one last one right over here.
John, from what this team learned a year ago with the Cardinals series, just the first game in a 5-game series, how important is it to setting the tone, do you think?
I think obviously the first game is important, but I think in a short series, every game is magnified, just because you don't have those 2 extra games. The wild card game could end up helping us. It could end up hurting us. We don't know. I think it helped us last year get into that Cardinal series with a little bit of momentum. But Lack threw the ball really extremely well that first game and kind of shut that momentum down for us, and then we got some back. So I think it just depends on your team. I think if you allow the first game, if it doesn't go well, to get you down to where you're done, you're like, okay, we don't really care, we didn't win that game, then you shouldn't be in that position anyway. I think our team's done a good job of, when we do lose games, we come back the next day fired up, ready to go, and
almost give a better effort. So obviously we all want to get off to a good start tomorrow, and we want to be on the winner side of tomorrow and put us in a good position for game 2. But if that doesn't happen, I have nothing but the utmost confidence in our guys that we're going to come back on game 2 and be ready to go and play hard and give their guys some trouble on the mound with our hitters.
Thanks a lot, John. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Johnny Cueto will be in here shortly.